In this devotional, I'm going to share with you 3 thoughts from Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 34 through 40, where I'll ask the question, why did Israel wander in the wilderness? Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 34 through 40 says, "And the Lord heard your words and was angered, and he swore, not one of these men of this evil generation shall see the good land that I swore to give to your fathers, except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. He shall see it, and to him and to his children I will give the land on which he has trodden, because he has wholly followed the Lord. Even with me, the Lord was angry on your account, and said, you also shall not go in there. Joshua, the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall enter. Encourage him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit it. And as for your little ones, who you said would become a prey, and your children, who today have no knowledge of good or evil, they shall go in there. And to them I will give it, and they shall possess it. But as for you, turn and journey into the wilderness in the direction of the Red Sea." The book of Deuteronomy is a retelling of the law that Moses gives to the people of Israel as they're preparing to enter into the promised land after having wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. And here in the beginning, Moses explains to the people of Israel why it is that they had to wander in the wilderness. You might remember the story of the 12 men who went to spy on Canaan, that 10 were bad and 2 were good. There's a little ditty that goes along with it that I quite enjoy. Anyway, the people of Israel refused to do what the Lord had commanded, which was to go up and take the land. Even though Caleb and Joshua both said, this is a great land, we need to go and take it up, those other 10 spies said, it's too risky. We're not big enough, we're not strong enough, we don't have enough might, we can't do it. The people rebelled against the Lord's command. They said, go up, and they said, no, we're not going to do it. And it's after this that the people of Israel are caused to wander in the wilderness. So here are 3 thoughts answering the question, why did Israel wander in the wilderness? From Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 34 through 40. Thought number 1, rebellion. The people of Israel were rebellious. The Lord said, go in and take the land. And they said, no. He said, go in and take the land. And they said, the enemy is too great for us. We're not able to defeat them. We don't trust that the Lord is going to provide a way for us. We will not do it. And it's this rebellion that the people of Israel do that prompts God to say, you all better turn around and go back towards the Red Sea. You all will not get to inherit the land. Your children will inherit the land, but you will die in the wilderness without a home and without a land. This was what the Lord commanded the people of Israel to do because they had rebelled against him. When the Lord said, you must do this, they said no. So the Lord took away this good thing that he would have given them and gave it to their children instead. You see, the land is still the promised land. The Lord is still fulfilling his promise, but he's doing it in a manner that corrects these rebellious people. Thought number 2, distrust. You might ask yourself, why in the world would the people not trust the Lord? Why in the world wouldn't they just go and rush headlong into the land? After all, hadn't they witnessed the destruction of Egypt by the Lord? The death of all the firstborn sons of Egypt? The destruction of the Egyptian army in the Red Sea? Hadn't they witnessed all of those things? Of course they had. But it's one thing to recognize that the Lord was faithful in the past. It's a whole other thing to trust that he's going to be faithful in the future. And when the report came back that the people of the promised land were big and mighty and had walled cities, they got disheartened. They didn't trust that the Lord would provide for them as he had in the past. They didn't trust that the Lord would care for them as he had always done. They didn't believe that it would take place. And it's this distrust that the Lord is punishing. They don't trust the Lord, which prompts them to rebellion against his commands. And this is why he turns them around and sends them back towards the Red Sea, so that they might wander around in the wilderness for an entire generation. One of the things that we often miss is that the wandering in the wilderness is a generational punishment. An entire generation of people will die before the promised land is finally entered into. Thought number 3, correction. Ultimately, Israel has to wander in the wilderness because the Lord is correcting them. He is demonstrating to them that if you rebel against him, he will make your life difficult. He will demonstrate that you can, in fact, trust him. And you must, in fact, trust him, because if you don't, you're going to be wandering around in the wilderness for a generation. The Lord is doing this to correct the people of Israel so that they would not rebel against him in the future. Now, if you've been reading through the Bible with me, you know that the people of Israel will rebel against the Lord again. In fact, this is like inherent to their character. They're continually rebelling against the Lord, continually seeking after other gods, continually rejecting his law. But the Lord is continually correcting them of these behaviors. The Lord is continually demonstrating that he has steadfast love, that he has covenant faithfulness, that he is going to do that which is ultimately good for his people because he has a greater intent in mind. The Lord's greater intent is that through these people, ultimate redemption might come to his chosen people. And he accomplishes this through the work of Christ. As you read through the Bible, this becomes increasingly clear because all of these different occurrences point ultimately to what Christ is doing, because it's the focal point of all human history. These 3 thoughts come from the assigned reading of Deuteronomy chapters 1 through 3. If you'd like to read through the Bible with me, you can do so by subscribing to this channel, by clicking on the link in the description, or by joining the Facebook group Through the Bible, where we are reading the text of Scripture together.